This video is sponsored by God of War. Click the link in the description below for even more information about Kratos and his son Atreus' adventure into the mystic world of the Norse. Hey everyone, Gaijin Goomba here, and dude, the next God of War is just a week away! Well, of course I'm excited! This is one of the few definitive franchises that takes old pantheons from ancient culture and spins them into fascinating original stories. And as the series moves into a brand new Norse setting, how could I not cover the fantastic folklore around it? Besides, the way that Kratos has changed and evolved in this new setting is something I've been wanting to see for a while now. He's not fighting alone anymore, but instead working closely with his son Atreus, who complements Kratos' hand-to-hand style combat with range support using his lightning arrows. The two work in tandem not only in combat, but also in puzzles and narrative. Personally, I love the fact that Kratos has moved to a character with depth and purpose. You can tell he wants to be a good father and a good person, yet who he is something he actively struggles with. So far in what I've seen in the game, Kratos may end up relying just as much on his son's humanity as Atreus relies on his father to guide him as a warrior. So when PlayStation came to me wanting to sponsor a video analyzing the game, of course I jumped at it. The question just becomes, what in this gigantic world of 13th century Iceland folklore do I talk about? Kratos' new weapon, the Leviathan Axe, could be cool. I mean, while the weapon itself is unique to the game, its creators Brok and Sindri are legendary dwarves as cited in the Prose Edda, basically Norse's catalog of ancient history and folklore. The two made all kinds of weapons, armor, and jewelry for the gods, including Odin's golden ring Draupnir and Thor's legendary hammer Mjolnir. But then there's also a whole new pantheon that the game could explore with fantastic gods like Mimir.
They call me Mimir, smartest man alive.
Yeah, I think Mimir might actually be selling himself a little short here. While historians aren't sure if he was a god or a giant, we do know that he lived up to his namesake, meaning the Rememberer or the Wise One. He was the keeper of the Well of Erd, the great body of water that nourishes the world tree Yggdrasil and determines the past, present, and future for all of existence. In one story, Odin himself gave up an eye to Mimir to drink from the well to gain wisdom, while in another tale, Mimir was beheaded during the Aesir War and his severed head was returned to Odin, who preserved and gained knowledge from it. I guess that's why Mimir in God of War wasn't too shaken up at the concept of decapitation.
First, you need to cut off my head.
Wait, what?
But I think the coolest thing this game has to offer are monsters. Just like the God of War games of old, the most unique and creative aspects of the series are the endless varieties of folklore terrors Kratos has to battle his way through. And Norse has plenty of terrifying monsters to go around. Take for example the humble from that horrifying Draugr. In concept they may look like any other undead, but these guys make zombies look as threatening as a 2-month-old steak left out in the sun. Draugr, literally meaning a genwalker, are dark blue reanimated corpses of those who were improperly buried by Norse standards. Any body not placed to rest horizontally and feet pinned to the floor became Draugr, wreaking havoc on the living. Though God of War's Lost Pages holds a slightly different interpretation than that of the Prose Edda. But based on the Prose Edda, not only did they retain their skills and battle prowess that they had in life, but gain a whole new host of nightmarish powers. The most terrifying of which is the innate ability to grow several times their normal size, towering upwards of 14 to 20 feet tall and crushing their enemies beneath their feet, their preferred way of dispatching their foes. But that's only one of several powers. Draugr could also haunt the dreams of the living, curse them with bad luck, and even use that power to put them to death. In one example, the Grettis saga, the main protagonist Greidir fights and successfully defeats a Draugr named Glamir, but in the monster's death throes, curses Greidir with misfortune for the remainder of the tale. Finally, if you think you're safe from Draugr out at sea, you would be terribly wrong. Souls that drown at sea almost always return as an even more terrifying Draugr, half-rotting flesh and half-seaweed. Many Nords who live to a ripe old age would claim that they would see ships filled with Draugr husks sailing vessels made of their own corpses. Seems like Kratos would have his hands full with these seemingly unstoppable undead. But the Prose Edda does state a way to dispose of a Draugr. Though it takes the blood of a hero, someone of great courage and strength, and, well, Kratos has all of that in spades, so that's one requirement down. A hero would first have to decapitate the Draugr and quickly burn its body to ash. Only after dumping the ashes into the sea will the Draugr never return to life. Given that we've seen in the handfuls of fights between Kratos and the Draugr, we can actually see this happening in-game. Each fight Kratos has with a Draugr ends with it in cinders, burning to ash. Trolls are another monstrosity that Kratos and Atreus come across in their journey. However, I found it very curious that the two only did battle with a single troll in the trailer, because unlike many other European interpretations that depict trolls as being hideaway loners, Norse trolls are actually very family-oriented, dwelling together in groups of fathers, mothers, sisters, and brothers who will typically live in isolated caves or dense forests to keep them away from humanity, cause boy do they hate humanity. In fact, the prose edit actually cites a conversation with a female troll confronting and threatening a poet named Bragni Boddason in the book known as Skald Skaparmal. They call me a troll, moon of the hearth Hrungnir, wealth sucker of the giant, destroyer of the storm sun, guardian of the Nafjord, swallower of the wheel of heaven. What's a troll if not that? And Bragni would have good reason to fear these trolls, as they not only possessed insane strength, but command the elements as well. Whereas the more stupid trolls would simply uproot trees as clubs or toss boulders like a catapult, more intelligent trolls could command nature, causing earthquakes, raging thunderstorms, and hurricane-like winds. That's why in retrospect it doesn't seem so out of the ordinary that the troll Kratos and Atreus fought commanded fire while trying to bash the two in with a massive stone. But I tell you what, out of all of the creatures that Kratos and Atreus could have come across, the last one I would have expected them to run into would be the world serpent Jormungand. And no, I'm not confusing the trailer with some random sea monster. Atreus calls it by name.
The world serpent. He wants to help us!
Lucky that it wants to aid them, because Jormungand is absolutely no creature to take lightly. According to the prose Edda, Jormungand was the offspring of Loki and a giantess named Angrboda. One of 3 siblings, actually. The other 2 being Fenrir, the father of wolves prophesied to slay Odin in the Battle of Ragnarok, and Hel, the appointed ruler of the miserable underworld that houses the souls of those who died from sickness and old age, never to see the splendor of Valhalla. And much like his siblings, Jormungand is also a doomsday monster of the Nords. As he did for the rest of Loki's children, Odin banished Jormungand to, quote, that deep sea that lies around all lands. There it grew from the size of an above-average snake into a serpent so massive it encircled the entire world, which is why it bears the name Midgard or World Serpent. To this day, it's believed that Jormungand continues to lay dormant with its tail in its mouth, but when it finally releases its tail from its teeth, the end times, Ragnarok, will begin. As the battle between giant and god unfolds, it's foretold that Thor and Jormungand will square off in a one-on-one fight, with Thor being the victor, but will have taken no more than 9 steps away from the fight before he succumbs to Jormungand's poison. So yeah, definitely a creature you don't want to mess with. I really can't draw any hard conclusions about what we see with Jormungand interacting with Kratos and Atreus, but one thing's for certain. If whatever's happening in game really does cause Jormungand to release his tail and go to surface from above the deep sea, something big's gonna go down in the story. And that's what I think I'm really looking forward to most with this game. The story. The combat looks and feels just as good as it ever has, but watching Kratos growing as a person, as a hero, and as a father is something I've very much been looking forward to for a while now. And if God of War continues its tradition of masterfully integrating characters into ancient lore in this game, there's gonna be one heck of a saga to unfurl. But thanks for watching, everyone, and another big thanks to Sony and God of War for sponsoring this video. If you want to learn more about the game and the ancient Norse culture that it stems from, check out the link in the description. Otherwise, the game comes out April 20th, so you can see for yourself just how deep into the lore God of War goes. And as always, if you love theories about history, math, science, and even popular culture in your favorite video games, be sure to subscribe and click that bell to never miss out on our newest Game Theorist videos. But until next time, everyone, this is Gaijin Goomba, signing out.